Okay, so these are the controls for the curve. You can click and drag on any of these projections to move the curve around, and you can also click on one of the points and hold the X, Y, or Z keys to drag it along the axis in 3D. If you enable the drag entire curve option, you can just use those same controls to move the entire curve around at once, just by clicking on any point and dragging. The same X, Y, Z things apply, of course. And then to add a point, you can click on the Add Control Point button and just click anywhere on the curve, and a new point will appear, which you can drag around like normal. To delete a point, you can just click on the Delete Control Point button and then mouse over any point, and when it turns red, you can just click on it to delete it, like that. To control the view, you can just click and drag to rotate the camera around. You can also just use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. The particle generator, which I will show here, looks like this. It's just the sphere. We'll enable the points and turn on the simulation so you can see them being generated like that. You can change the position by just mousing over the center and holding X, Y, or Z, just like the other control. To change the radius of the particle generator, you just click on the settings menu and then drag the particle generator radius, and it just changes size like that. So when collision's off, the particles just flow around like this. I can turn on the trace so you can see their motion better. They just flow around the curve. They don't bump into anything. They just follow the curve blindly. They use an averaging function to follow the curve. So if you move that down, they'll just like shoot off straight lines, and if you move it all the way forward, they'll just follow the curve exactly. But about 50% is generally a good place to have the velocity conformity to average the particles between their current velocity and the velocity of the curve, because then they follow the curve pretty well but still allow for collisions, sending them off course and stuff like that. Alright, so if I turn on collision like this, and increase the particle size so you can see the collisions better, you can see that the particles are colliding with each other. I'll turn up gravity for now, and we don't need to see the particle generator. So yeah, you can see them bumping into each other as they're moving along the curve. They also bounce off the walls, and I can make them even bigger so it's more obvious, and decrease the number of particles. So you can more easily see them just kind of bumping into each other. If I decrease this, the particles go off in straight lines, and just bounce off. They turn different colors when they actually hit the green by default, so if they're a different color, it means that they've recently collided with something. And then if we turn gravity on, it looks like this. I'll decrease the size of the particles so that you can see better again, make less particles so it's not so laggy. And then if you change the gravitational constant, you can see them. They'll tend towards the Earth more. Alright, so this is a more obvious demonstration of the gravity. So if I set this lower, they'll spin out more, following the curve. And now you can see they're kind of going around the Earth. But if I pull this in more, they'll get pulled in slowly, and now they're just kind of like rolling on the Earth, basically following the curve, which produces a kind of interesting looking effect. And one thing to note about how the collision works in this is that if I make a bunch of particles and then make them go quickly and then rapidly change their radius, a bunch of them will start escaping, as you can see in the side here, because when their size changes, it sends them over the edge and then they can't get back in.